The wedding ring disappeared in less than a second. One moment it sparkled beneath the fluorescent lights of the subway platform. The next, it bounced once across the concrete, slipped between two metal bars of a drainage grate, and vanished into the darkness below. A woman gasped. Several commuters instinctively looked down before continuing toward their trains. No one stopped. Morning rush hour waits for nobody. The woman fell to her knees, gripping the cold metal grate with trembling hands. No, no, please. Her voice cracked. She reached desperately through the narrow openings, but the ring had fallen far beyond her reach. People hurried around her. Some glanced briefly. Others pretended not to notice. Within moments, she was surrounded by thousands of strangers, yet completely alone. Standing several yards away was Daniel Carter, 39 years old, a widowed single father. He had been carrying a worn backpack in one hand and a small lunchbox in the other while waiting for the downtown train to his construction job. Beside him stood his 7-year-old daughter, Emma. She gently tugged his sleeve. "Daddy, that lady's crying." Daniel looked toward the platform edge. He quietly nodded. "I know. Aren't we going to help?" He glanced toward the arriving train. If he missed it, he would be late. Another late arrival could cost him the job he desperately needed. Rent was already overdue. The refrigerator at home contained little more than milk, eggs, and bread. Every paycheck mattered. But then he looked back at the woman. She wasn't crying because she had lost jewelry. She looked as though she had lost part of her heart. Daniel sighed softly. "I guess we're taking the next train." Emma smiled. "I knew you'd say that." Daniel walked over. "Ma'am, are you all right?" The woman quickly wiped away tears. "I'm sorry. I know this must look ridiculous. It's only a ring." Daniel noticed the enormous diamond had briefly caught the light before disappearing below. It was anything but ordinary. "It seems important." She nodded. "My husband gave it to me 22 years ago. It isn't about the money. He proposed with this ring after we met in college. He saved for nearly 2 years to buy it." Her voice became quieter. "He passed away 6 months ago." Daniel's expression softened immediately. "I'm sorry." She looked toward the grate again. "It was the last thing he ever placed on my finger." Emma quietly squeezed Daniel's hand. Without another word, Daniel knelt beside the grate. He shined the flashlight from his phone through the narrow opening. Far below, barely visible among rainwater, leaves, and debris, something reflected the light. "I think I see it." Hope returned to the woman's face. "You do?" "I think so. But it's too deep to reach." Station security soon arrived. One officer examined the situation. "I'm sorry. Maintenance won't be here until tomorrow morning." The woman's face fell again. "Tomorrow? If it rains tonight, the drainage system could carry it away." Daniel looked back toward the dark tunnel beneath the grate. "There has to be another way." The officer shrugged apologetically. "Unless someone climbs into the maintenance access tunnel, which isn't allowed." The next train arrived. Passengers stepped aboard. Daniel remained on the platform. Then the following train came. And another. Emma looked up at her father. "We're still staying?" Daniel smiled gently. "I think we are." The woman shook her head. "You've already done enough. You should go." Daniel simply sat down on a nearby bench. "I've lost someone too." She looked surprised. "My wife. 3 years ago. Cancer." For several moments, neither of them spoke. Finally, Daniel quietly added, "When people tell you it's just an object, they don't understand. Sometimes love needs something we can still hold." The woman slowly nodded. "Exactly." Hours passed. Daniel called his supervisor. "I'm sorry. I'm going to miss today's shift." The supervisor sounded frustrated. "This is the 3rd time this year." "I know. I'm sorry. I can't leave yet." After a long silence, the call ended. Daniel knew what that probably meant. Emma shared the sandwiches they had packed for lunch. She offered half to the woman. "My daddy says food tastes better when people aren't lonely." The woman smiled for the first time that day. "I'm Caroline. Emma. And that's my daddy." By late afternoon, station maintenance workers finally arrived. They unlocked a secured access door leading beneath the platform. One technician climbed carefully into the narrow drainage tunnel carrying a flashlight. Several anxious minutes passed. Then his voice echoed upward. "I found something." Everyone held their breath. Slowly, carefully, he climbed back onto the platform. Resting inside his gloved hand was the diamond ring. Caroline covered her mouth. Tears immediately filled her eyes. She slipped the ring back onto her finger exactly where it had belonged for more than 2 decades. She looked toward Daniel. I don't know how to thank you. Daniel smiled. You already did. You smiled. Caroline insisted on learning his name. She also asked where he worked. Daniel hesitated. I may not have a job anymore. Because of today. Caroline frowned. What do you mean? I missed my shift. I chose to stay. She looked at him in complete disbelief. You waited all day? For someone you didn't even know? Daniel glanced toward Emma. I wanted my daughter to grow up seeing that kindness matters. Neither Daniel nor Emma knew that Caroline had left out one important detail. She wasn't simply a grieving widow. She was the wife of one of the richest billionaires in the country. And by sunrise the following morning, Daniel's extraordinary act of honesty and compassion would reach people powerful enough to change the course of his life forever. Michael Lawson arrived at the subway station in less than 15 minutes. The black SUV barely came to a complete stop before he stepped onto the sidewalk. His wife, Victoria, hurried behind him. Even though both wore expensive clothes, neither seemed to notice the evening chill. Their eyes searched anxiously until they found Ethan standing beside the station manager. The moment Victoria saw the diamond ring resting safely inside a small evidence envelope, tears welled in her eyes. She covered her mouth. Oh, thank God. She carefully accepted the envelope with trembling hands. When she slid the ring back onto her finger, she closed her eyes for several seconds. It wasn't relief over the value of the diamond. It was relief over the memories it carried. She looked at Ethan. I don't even know your name. Ethan Parker. She smiled through tears. I'm Victoria. My husband is Michael. Michael stepped forward and shook Ethan's hand firmly. I've spent years meeting successful people, but very few honorable ones. Ethan smiled politely. I only returned what belonged to your family. Michael reached into his jacket pocket and removed his checkbook. Without hesitation, he wrote a check. $50,000. He held it toward Ethan. Please. You've earned this. Ethan looked down at the amount. It was more money than he earned in nearly a year. For a brief second, he imagined what it could do. A safer apartment. College savings for Noah. Replacing their aging car. Paying off old medical bills left behind after Emma's illness. Every practical reason in the world told him to accept it. Instead, he quietly folded the check and handed it back. I'm sorry. I can't. Victoria looked surprised. Why? Ethan glanced at the wedding ring she had just placed back on her finger. When my wife died, everyone kept telling me things could be replaced. They couldn't. The only things I had left were memories. If someone had protected one of those memories for me, I would have wanted to thank them. But I wouldn't want them to help only because they expected money. Silence settled between them. Michael slowly lowered the check. For perhaps the first time in years, someone had refused his wealth without hesitation. Then Noah stepped beside his father. He looked up at Victoria. My mom liked stars. Victoria smiled. Really? Dad still makes star pancakes every Monday because Mom used to. Ethan laughed softly. It's our tradition. Victoria looked at the little boy. I think your mother would be proud of both of you. The following morning, Ethan returned to work at the city's maintenance department. Nothing had changed, or so he thought. Around noon, his supervisor called him into the office. You've got visitors. Outside stood Michael and Victoria. Several employees whispered as they watched 2 luxury vehicles parked outside the maintenance building. Michael smiled. I hope we're not interrupting. Ethan looked confused. What brings you here? I wanted to ask you something. They walked together to a nearby cafe. After ordering coffee, Michael leaned forward. I've spent 20 years building companies. I know how to recognize talent. Ethan smiled awkwardly. I fix leaking pipes. No. You solve problems. There's a difference. Michael explained that the Lawson Foundation managed dozens of community projects. Schools, homeless shelters, veterans housing, food distribution centers. We need someone people trust. Someone who puts others before himself. I think that's you. Ethan hesitated. I don't have a business degree. I don't need one. I need character. Victoria added gently. My grandmother used to say skills can be taught. Integrity can't. That evening Ethan discussed the offer with Noah. What do you think? Noah grinned. Will you still make pancakes? Every Monday. And Fridays. Pizza night stays. Then you should do it. A month later, Ethan officially joined the Lawson Foundation. Despite the new position, he refused many of the luxuries offered. He kept driving his old pickup truck. He packed homemade lunches. He visited every project personally instead of reading reports. Employees quickly noticed something unusual. The new director remembered everyone's names. He helped unload supply trucks. He repaired broken shelves before calling contractors. One rainy afternoon, Ethan noticed a janitor struggling to move heavy boxes. Without saying a word, he set down his briefcase and helped. A young executive stared in disbelief. "You don't have to do that." Ethan smiled. "I know. I want to." Months passed. The foundation expanded several children's programs. New scholarships were created. Veterans' housing received additional funding. Dozens of community centers were renovated. Whenever reporters praised Michael Lawson's generosity, he always corrected them. "The best idea I ever invested in was hiring one honest man." Nearly a year after the subway incident, the Lawsons hosted a charity gala. Business leaders from across the country attended. During the evening, Michael stepped onto the stage. "I'd like everyone to hear a story." He described Victoria losing her ring, the stranger who waited 9 hours, the man who refused $50,000 because he believed memories couldn't be bought. Then Michael smiled toward Ethan. "I thought I was trying to reward him. In reality, he taught me something money never could." The audience applauded. Ethan looked embarrassed. He preferred working quietly behind the scenes. After the event ended, Noah walked beside his father toward their truck. "Dad, yeah. If you knew everything would happen like this, would you still wait 9 hours?" Ethan laughed softly. "No." Noah blinked. "You wouldn't." "I would have waited 10, maybe 11, however long it took. Because doing the right thing isn't supposed to depend on whether anyone notices." Years later, Victoria still wore the same ring every day. Whenever someone admired its beauty, she smiled. Then she told them the real treasure wasn't the diamond. It was the lesson attached to it. That a widowed single father with very little money had shown two billionaires something priceless. Wealth can purchase almost anything. But patience, integrity, compassion, and the willingness to spend 9 hours protecting someone else's memories. Those are treasures that cannot be bought. They can only be chosen. And that choice transformed far more lives than anyone standing on that subway platform could have imagined.